the thing about Mina Castle was where actually the slaves were transported right
Okay.
into the Atlantic Ocean on the waiting ship there to be
Okay.
sent into the diaspora here on plantations. And some years ago, President Obama went over to Cape Coast in Accra, Ghana, and he said he could still smell the stench of the flesh of human beings that passed through there who were chained. Some were
Wow.
killed. In North America here, a woman cannot even expose her nipples. You remember once Janet Jackson mistakenly did it with one
Yeah.
of these artists, and there was a
Yeah.
whole big scene. African Black women were transported via Elmina Castle that was built in 1482, bare-breasted, right? So
Yeah.
then came other Europeans around the 1650, the Danes came, the Danish people from Denmark. They arrived on the Gold Coast in Africa, in Accra, Ghana. As we said, they were very attracted to the gold that was in Ghana. By 1661, the Danes built the Osu Castle. The
Yeah.
Portuguese built Elmina. The
Yeah.
Danes from Denmark built the Osu. Now, they were situating themselves, they were building places that they could remain. And when the Dan, they call that the fortress, it was also referred to as Christianborg. You see, that's what sometimes people say Christianity have really been deceitful, right? But this became the home of the Danish government, the Osu Castle. And Osu
Okay.
Castle is where the present president of Ghana resides, although they kind of, well remodeled it into a presidential palace.
Okay.
But there where you have the president Nana Akufo-Addo, this is where he lives now. So within a very short period of time, many Europeans descended on Africa. And you know what happens? Instead
Yeah.
of being attracted to the natural resources of Africa, they now became more interested in the enslavement of Africans,
Africa.
right? So they started to take a lot of Africans into slaves, passing them through the Amina Castle. Then came a lot of other Europeans from England. The English came, people from Netherlands came. Of course, the Portuguese were there. The Germans came, French came, Germany came, and you name that. And they all competed for the natural resources of Africa. They took part in 350 years of the enslavement of Africans, right, into European plantations and colonies, right? And that's how the slave trade went on. So come in March of 1792, Denmark then decided to put a stop to the slave trade, right?
Yeah.
Denmark decides to put a stop to the sending of Africans to the Caribbean colonies, to American plantations, and elsewhere. They were the first to do that, and it was inspired by England, right? So other kings and other politicians put pressure on the growing number of slave trade that was going on. But they didn't do it merely for moral reasons, to say, you know what, we've treated Africans or Blacks very badly. We need to stop. It
So it
wasn't
was
based on,
Denmark that started it, that decided they were the first to come about that it was not right to continue the slave trade.
they didn't want to think it was not right. They said it should stop, but it wasn't based on moral judgment. It was
Okay.
based on the fact that slavery was no longer profitable,
Okay.
right? They said it is
Okay.
no longer profitable, so then let's stop this, right? And
Yeah.
when they did that, others followed them. So by April of 1792, Britain followed,
Yeah.
right? With the lead of Denmark to put a stop to slave trade, right? Within the following years, other European countries, including the United States of America, and we hear a lot about the evolution
Yeah.
of slavery by of the United States of America. But you can watch a lot of these videos for listeners, viewers of the show
Yeah.
on YouTube. You know,
Okay.
a lot of Hollywood actors and actresses and other things have watched some of these shows, created movies around this, and come up with some real portrayal of the slave trade of African people, and how inhumane it was. Yeah. So that's a little short history
Short
of the
history of
slave
the
trade.
transatlantic slave.
The
Uh,
transatlantic slave trade. That's it. Because instead of coming in now and trading with Africans with respect to the natural resources of palm oil and gold and all these things we have. Remember, Africa is one of the richest continents in the world,
yeah.
but they turned that to the enslavement of Africans, started to send Africans on these plantations in the Caribbean, in the United States of America, and elsewhere. Yeah.
Okay. Guys, I'll keep, going back, recapping on what we said earlier. This is your every other day or educational platform with Dr. Nancy Reeves, all the way from Canada. We will be sharing lights on things that affected our past, present, and future. So we would like you to please continue watching and sharing. Can you please share the live? Because we want a lot of people. Right now, we're talking about racism, and it has to do with our ancestor. Right now in the country, there's so many uh, Congo people and native people thing going on. That's a form of racism because one group of person is being stigmatized, and that's not good. Liberians are Liberians, be it you red, blue, green. Once you born out of a woman or through a man, you are a Liberian, regardless of which country you are in, that blood still runs through you. So we are talking about racism. So we dealt with the topic, what is racism? We defined what is racism. We dealt with the form of racism. We dealt with the historical or nature of racism and the transatlantic free slave. Doc, can we move on because we talk about the free slave? So let's go a little bit in depth. Let's look at the enslavement of Africans. How did it come about?
Well, you know what? We talk about the Europeans, but the Arabs actually, before Europeans even enslaved Africans, Arabs. We will look at that show one other day. Arabs were the very first to start the enslavement of Africans. And sometimes I laugh with this because one of the group of people who do not respect Black people are Arabs. A lot of them. I don't want to generalize it and say Arabs, all of them, but even look at Africans up in the north.
Yeah.
North Africans are very discriminatory to Africans down in the sub-Sahara part of Africa. So, as we said, historically, that's how the enslavement of Africans began. Then we get down to after the abolition of the slave trade came the colonization of Africa. Remember now, the Danes had the Christian border all set up there. The Portuguese had built a Mina castle. They had transported a lot of slaves and so forth. Then they decided, you know what, I guess we see this continent has a lot of wealth and resources. So maybe we need to settle here. We need to stay here. And that then came the whole concept of the colonization of Africa. So you had these countries who decided to now remain and colonize Africa. What came about was the Berlin Conference that was headed in 1884 by a German chancellor called Otto von Bismarck. He organized that conference in 1884 for the partitioning of Africa, partitioning, dividing of
The
Africa.
dividing
Where
of Africa,
the,
yes. The
the,
French took their own,
yeah,
the British
it
took
was
their
like
own. Yeah.
a big elephant meat.
Yes, everybody
Now
was cutting it up.
everybody was cutting a piece
Is
of
that
meat.
how we became what they called, so quote unquote, American stepchild, America's stepchild?
Oh, well, America came in mostly in after the abolition of slave trade. I'm sorry I didn't touch on that, but they
Yeah.
brought in the returning slaves. And there what you mentioned about the Congo and the indigenous people, because
Yeah.
after the slave trade, America settled slaves that were taken from Africa on Shepherd Island, right? And they thought that I guess because a lot of those slaves that they brought back to Shepherd Island in Liberia and Sierra Leone, they should remain a part of them. That's how Liberia created a lot of these this sort of big uncle brother or whatsoever relationship with the United States. Well,
Yeah.
I'm telling you, Liberia got her independence in 1847. Britain was the first country that recognized Liberia's independence, not America.
Whoa.
America, yeah, America did not recognize Liberia independence until after decades. When like until 1862, I think, or 1872, America recognized Liberia's independence.
Wow.
Britain was the first country. Now, Liberia got her independence because of the way that the maritime coast was being used or misused. So that's how America came in there and returned the slaves and became a real part of Liberia's historical past. But as I was saying, Otto von Bismarck, a German chancellor, held this conference in 1884 for the partitioning of Africa, right? And what they did was the conference lasted for 3 months. Now, tell me the nature of disrespectfulness that existed. You spend 3 months to partition an entire continent.
Hmm.
So what developed from there was what they termed as a head hush of countries in Africa, where, as we said, a big elephant meat that everybody had their pieces of and whatnot. They disregarded all of the culture and linguistic aspect of Africa that existed, right? There were 14 countries involved in this demarcation of
Of
Africa.
Africa. Okay.
14
14
countries.
countries.
Yep.
Okay.
And that included like Austria, Belgium, Denmark, France, Germany, Great Britain, Italy, the Netherlands, Portugal, Russia, Sweden, Turkey, right? Of course, the United States of America brought in the free men of color or the free slaves, right? But then what happened? There were four important nations that were very involved in the partitioning of Africa. France, we hear of France, West Africa.
Yeah.
French took a good portion of Africa. Talk about Cote d'Ivoire, talk about Benin, talk
Yes.
about Togo,
Yeah.
and these
Yeah.
French-speaking African countries. That's how they colonized Africa. Germany took their share. Great Britain, the British colonies, right? These were all players, important players in the demarcation of Africa. So yeah, that's part of that. And then what a country like Britain did was Egypt took over countries like Egypt, parts of Angola, Sudan, Uganda. Kenya took over, Britain also took over countries like in the east of Africa, Zambia, Zimbabwe, former Rhodesia was
Yeah.
also taken over, Botswana, and of course the Gold Coast, Nigeria, Ghana. France took over. We talk about Cote d'Ivoire
Yeah. La
and
Cote
and and
d'Ivoire.
and, and so forth. Congo, with Mabutu Sese Seko and the others, and Portugal took over countries like Mozambique, Angola. Italy took over places like Somalia. Germany took over Namibia. And this is how, you know, Africa was divided
Divide it up.
into
Yeah.
these countries after the slave trade. And this have had a vast impact, of course, on Africa. Because I can tell you, you have Mende in Liberia and Mende in Sierra Leone. What is the boundary between Liberia and Sierra Leone? If your brother or sister at that time went over to Sierra Leone to
Yeah.
buy fish or something,
Mhm.
Before they returned, forget it. Britain had already taken over and took over Sierra Leone and said, leave Liberia there. It's an American colony. They brought slaves. That's America's part, right? I went to Ghana, and between the border between Ghana
And
and
Ghana.
Togo,
Yeah.
Ghana and Togo,
Togo.
it's like a jump. It's a house between Ghana and
Wow.
Togo. I'm not saying they say. When I was a refugee in Ghana, I went over to Togo. It's just
Wow.
like a house. Behind the next house is Togo. But not only that, you have Evers in Ghana. It's a language that they speak, and the same Ever is in Togo. You cannot really distinguish Evers in Ghana from Evers in Togo. They look so alike.
A
The
lot.
same thing happened with Ethiopia and Eritrea. Right.
What's coming on? I don't know. Someone
The,
coming
the,
on. Yeah. I didn't.
the same thing happened with.
Did you put? There's another something on. Can you cut it
Yeah,
off?
I'm trying to, Deb, sorry, I'm trying to go on my phone yet. My battery is going dead.
Okay.
Are you hearing me?
Yeah, I'm hearing you, man.
Are you hearing me, Deb?
Yes, I'm hearing you, man.
The devil is busy for this important topic. He wants to challenge us,
No,
right?
he won't.
But he will have no time because today
Exactly.
we're
You can.
talking about racism, and we're going to uncover every stone.
Okay, Mama. Take your time. Go ahead. We got all the time. Let me
I,
continue to
I,
share.
I, I got enough battery time
Yeah,
on
I'm
my
gonna
phone.
share. Let me continue to share. Guys, please share, share, share. We're trying
Yeah.
to make some adjustment here. Can you please share, please? Please share, guys. Please share. Yeah,
So as we're saying there, Deb,
yeah,
yeah, Deb, yeah.
yeah. Go ahead.
So it's the same thing we have in India. I was saying Eritrea and Ethiopia,
Yeah,
right? I cannot distinguish Eritreans from Ethiopians. I have had classmates who are from Eritrea and Ethiopia. I cannot distinguish Ethiopians from Eritreans. I cannot distinguish. I've had them as students. I
yeah.
cannot because they look so alike. Those
Alike.
are the same people. But this is some of the consequences of the partitioning of Africa by the colonial, let's say colonial masters as a colonial tyrants, right? And
Wow.
the same thing goes with India and Pakistan that was colonized by Britain, right?
Yeah,
You cannot, and they have this big issue with the Kashmir region,
yeah.
where up to today, as we speak, they are still in problems with the Kashmir region of India and Pakistan,
India. Yeah.
with the British colonization of that area. So it creates a lot of these situations that have led to where we find ourselves today in the world, right? So I say to people, learn to go back to the historical past, and this is one reason that I love social work. I hear you sometimes, Deb, mention about sociology. My area is actually social work,
Social work.
but social work, we love to go back to the historical past and see what led us to where we find
Where we are
ourselves
today. Yeah.
today. So that's just a gist again of not only the partitioning of Africa, but some of the consequences as a result of that partitioning of Africa.
So, Doc, let me ask a question. And I know many of the listeners out there are asking themselves, themselves the same question. Did these people that sat, the 14 countries that sat and divided Africa up as an elephant meat, did they do more harm or good to Africa?
Well, I would tell anyone who, I don't know what books they're reading, to think if any good was done to Africa. But if you listen to this show today, I would say we're giving a gist of things here. Go back and do some reading. Even
Yeah.
Google Scholar or even on the internet, read some things, watch the video on YouTube, and tell me if you were in your house and someone walked there, your home, and someone walked in there and forcefully took you out, right? And put you in a prison camp and said, work for me, right? When that is over, I will just throw you off into the street and you survive on your own, or put you back in some ship and
Ship and send you back. Yeah.
send you back home, and we will remain in your house. And if even you come back or you don't come back, your descendants will be treated based on what we think, believe, and we have control over your pot, pan, spoons, fork, knives, and even your children. And if you call yourself a man who respect yourself and your wife, we will have sex with your wife right in front
In
of
front
you.
of you.
We will sodomize your boys and little children, and we will treat you the way we want to treat you. And today, because of the color of your skin and how we regard you, we are going to make sure that we decide what jobs you get. No matter you have a master's or PhD degree, we will decide for you your destiny, right? If you apply for a job, we will tell you, where we can put you. We will pay you lesser than we pay those we term as better than you based on the color of your skin. And and you know what? And this will flow down from generations to generations for 350 years. But even today, as we speak, when you get into the streets and your sons brothers are so driving a car, we will have our police officers there who will stop them indiscriminately. And if they don't answer to the police, we can shoot the hell out of them, and we can grab them and put them in jail. I can go on and
On and
on
on.
on. So if anyone thinks that something good was done to Africa and the continent of Africa, then you need to think twice, because you know what? There's a wonderful woman, I don't know if she's still alive, called Jean Elliott, who talks about racism. A white woman, Jean Elliott, Janeelliot. Jean Elliott says anyone who is a racist has a mental health issue. If you would discriminate against someone because of the color of the skin and treat them like a pig, you have
Hmm.
a mental health issue.
Wow.
Thank you, Dad.
Thank you so much, Doc. Thank you so much. That's wow. I mean, it's just wow. Wow. We talk history and maybe I learned it, but I have forgotten how many persons divided Africa up. And I'm just getting to know it, and maybe I knew it, like I said, I forgot about it. And this is why I'm telling you guys out there, this is a topic that even your kids can sit and watch, because they are in, or especially for those that are in junior high and senior high. This is where they can tap into and better understand, Africa as a whole. So you guys need to listen. You guys need to share the life. I'm not saying you're already sharing the life. Most time when I come on, by the time I jump into the politics and start cussing and things, I mean, you will see people just coming on like fly on something rotting. But this is educational, and I see people are just sluggish. One person coming on. That's why you see I keep sharing it, because when I get something that is important, I don't want to keep it to myself. I want to share it, and this is why you see me. My head is bowed. I'm not down, but I got the phone in front of me, and I'm trying to get you guys on board to come in and tap into it. Sit at the feet of this lady and tap into her fountain of knowledge. And this too will help broaden your scope on the African transatlantic slave. Because right now we talk about Liberia being independent, having declaring their independence, as if Liberia was not in existence. It was, the American colonization that went in. So if you sit back, she's going to take us down. And I know we're going to go back into, down into to Liberia. So, Doc, we look at racism. forms of racism, the transatlantic, free slaves. We just did the enslavement of Africans. Can we look at now? These 14 people, a country that divided, because 14 people represented 14 countries that divided Africa. Let's look at the colonization of Africans.
Well, that's a part of that was part of the colonization process, because when they partitioned Africa in that way, Britain, France, Germany, Portugal, and all of that, they it was based on the partitioning of Africa that they took over these places, right? And that's why we still have French West Africa and Portuguese Angola and all of that. So that was the actual partitioning of Africa that was done disrespectfully, disingenuously, and did not take into consideration the culture or socioeconomic status of Africans, after the abolition of the slave trade. And I talked about Stephen Haggs, one of the well-known writers, and he's a white man
Okay.
who write a lot on racism. But another wonderful, brilliant Ghanaian professor, Ransford Danso, he
Okay.
wrote this in his journal on racism in North America. He said, far from belittling the
Okay.
oppression that other racialized groups have experienced, right, in the history of the world, we don't want to discredit what the Indians and Pakistanis experienced as a result of the colonization of their countries, because they are also considered racial minorities. But
Okay.
he said, far from belittling their experiences based on the race or categorization of their race, Africans or blacks were the only group of human beings that were transported in shiploads between continents to be permanently enslaved, right, in North American society. And of course, in the Caribbean, blacks, Africans were the only groups, right? And this dehumanizing treatment that was done to black people or African people is still haunting the psyche, despite some improvements we say we've had.
Yeah.
What are the improvements we're talking about? Because blacks are no longer hung on trees and being lynched. So
Mm.
we think it's an improvement.
Okay.
But when you have gone to school and taken so much in student loan, right?
Yeah.
And have that money to pay, and you study so much in the library and have to with the assumption or surety that you are coming out to getting a good job, but only to know that you have to struggle so hard to get a job, because no one is going to tell you, Deborah or Nancy, you are black. Despite you having a master's or PhD, we can give you this job, which is very overt, but covertly, you are not given that job, and you see your fellow white classmates being offered two, three, four jobs. So that's a form of dehumanizing treatment that many blacks are still experiencing in North American and European society, right?
Yeah,
That that that
let me just come to a point. I've seen, working places since I came to the United States that despite your qualification, despite your input, despite your hard work, I noticed that we are still being marginalized because um, a black man will be seen working, working. And then you will see a white guy just passing around, standing, not doing anything. And you understand when you look, you see the guy got a higher position. How do you look at that? And then people start to wonder. This guy, we see him standing, or she's standing, and we hardly see them doing anything. But yet instead, we see them being promoted. What do you say about that?
that's the covert form of racism. And he could be very educated and deserve to be promoted, right? I'm not saying nobody should listen to this and get me wrong. I'm not saying blacks should be put in positions that they don't
Not qualified.
qualify for.
Yes.
I'm not saying that. But if they do qualify for it and they are denied the opportunity to be there based on their blackness, that it may not be told that because you are black, you are not getting that job. That is wrong. And that's racism, right?
Okay.
So if that
Another
white,
another one, Doc. Let me ask a question because it's almost the same thing. You notice a black from Africa and a black from America. They both are on the job at the same time. The black from Africa been there a longer time. He have given his services for 4 or 5 years. You have a black from America that joined the organization maybe for just 6 months, and you find out that the black from Africa is being promoted over the black that have been there 5 years, and the black from Africa is working more and more productive on the job. How do you call that also?
well, with all things being equal, Deb, some of these things before I speaking to them, I like to really find out, as I said initially, what is the qualification of the one being or the person being promoted,
Okay.
right? If the black American has the better quality or qualification, then they deserve the promotion,
Okay.
right? If the black from Africa has the better qualification and that position comes up, then they deserve to be promoted. But we get into some of the ways we can work with structural racism or discrimination, right? Because now you say there are two blacks. You see,
Yeah.
there you people go. You talk about race, white and black. Now there
Yeah.
are two blacks because
Yeah.
some of our own blacks are our worst enemies.
Yeah. Exactly. That's what I'm coming
Right,
to. Yeah.
right. So when you're looking at that and the policy around promotion, we need to really look at the qualification that was put in place to deserve that promotion.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So
Another scenario. Another scenario. A black, a black, and a white supervisor. A white supervisor comes and tell the black, African or black American, can you do this? Can you do that? Can you move around? And it is done. When the black supervisor come and asks, can you do this? Can you do that? They refuse to do it. How do you look at that? The blacks themselves are not listening to the black supervisor. They have no respect.
that's
What do
very
we
good.
do with
That's a very
that? Is
good
it
question.
because we have been brainwashed? Because I felt maybe from our forefathers' time, this thing have been uh something that blacks are not well, potent, they are incapable. So why is it a black man will not respect another black man despite or regardless of him holding the same position as a white man?
That's very good. And it's called in a lot of courses or so or in the discourse of social justice and diversity and other courses on equity and equality. It's called internalization of racism.
Internalization of
Internalization of
racism.
racism. Many blacks have come to the point, and I say many blacks, excluding me, have come to the point of not respecting their own blacks for many reasons. One, who colonized Africa? All the names, did I name one black country that colonized Africa?
No,
No. Who enslaved Africa, the transatlantic slavery or slave trade? Did I name one black country?
no,
No. So who were Africans serving? The Europeans.
yeah.
What is the color of the Europeans in terms of skin color?
White,
What?
the
So
masters.
who
Yeah,
have Africa been serving as the masters?
the white.
What? If you look in most of the books when you were growing up, the textbooks, whose pictures did you see?
White. Jim and Dick.
Did you, yeah?
Pete
Did
and
you
Dick.
see?
Yeah.
Did you ever see snow I mean, other than up and down in South Africa, that it gets very cold and icy. All the books you were reading in West Africa, did you see snow on the ground in West Africa? Did you ever see snow on the ground in West Africa?
No.
And that's the word you use, we've been indoctrinated to believe that every doggone thing from the white man is good. Look, that some of the problems I have in classrooms here in North America teaching are from blacks
Mm-hmm.
that look just like me.
Mm-hmm.
Because all through the high school, elementary, junior high, high school, they were taught by whites. They were taught by whites. Those are the teachers they walk to and respected. You go to the prison system, most of the prison guys are whites. In your offices, most of your supervisors are whites. So those are the people you've learned to take decisions and authority from. And now I'm not rationalizing
Yeah.
alone to say blacks got right to be disrespectful to blacks. No. But because a lot of blacks have not sat like you and I to really look at the historical nature. High school, elementary, have not sat like you and I to really look at the historical nature. There's some echo. There's some
Yeah.
echo.
Sorry. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
So
Yeah.
once and that's why in social work we teach a lot about internalization of racism. We grow up and we grow up with our parents. We learn from them. They are our mentors.
Yeah.
They teach us who to become. And if we're growing up in society and the people that we respect to keep our jobs, to keep our heads above the water in our educational system, to pass our closest and all of that are white, some people internalize that. Yep.
Wow. That's a lot to process. Yeah, a lot to process. Yeah, yeah. That's a lot to process. And
Yep.
sometimes I'm kind of shocked to see that. I mean, you will see the black coming and say, "Oh, man, sir, can you do this and something?" And you the way the black will react. But then when you see a white guy come and say, "Hey, can you do it?" and you see them going with that zeal, oh my God, I feel, oh, I have empathy for them,
It's
and
out of fear. It's out of
yeah,
fear, Deb.
I say, oh my God,
It's out of
gee,
fear, Deb. It's
man,
fear. It's fear.
God, oh,
It's
God,
out of
that's
it's
a
out of
lot to
fear.
process.
It's
Ah,
out of fear. It's out of fear. And you know, I was working during my undergrad in a long-term care home, and one of my colleague during the break time, I said, let's go and have something to eat. And she said, oh no, Nancy, I don't want us to sit together. I said, why? And she said, because the other white nurses would think that we are ganking up against them. So blacks have already, some have already thought that when we sit together, we are gangs. But you know, the worst gang that went down to Africa to colonize people were the
wow,
Europeans. That was a gang-like behavior,
yeah,
right? That was a
yeah,
gang.
yeah,
Everything that is planned towards group of people unknown to them that becomes very dehumanizing, disrespectful, disingenuous, and has a severe impact on their prosperity. That's a
yeah,
gang-like
yeah,
attitude. And I'll
yeah,
tell you this, today in most North American offices, you know, the white man knows how to frame things. They call
yeah,
it group think,
yeah,
group thing, and I call it a gang related behavior, right?
yeah,
They call
yeah,
it group thing. I call it a gang related behavior because someone, a colleague of mine, just told me that the president of one university had to dispel and even dismiss some professors who had ganged up to fail black students.
wow,
To fail black students. So you can write a paper very good, put it through Grammarly, and you still get a B plus.
wow,
And now they've created this sort of stratification of race where even the Chinese are better than the blacks. So a Chinese person who doesn't even know English could get an A on the paper because they're Chinese. Their skin color looks lighter than you and I. I'm in the educational system and I read papers,
Hmm.
right? So when Chinese are giving A pluses on papers that English is not their first language, and blacks who many of us from Africa to English is not our first language, but discriminatorily, that is racism.
Thank you, Doc. For those of you joining us, that uh, Professor Reeves, Nancy Reeves from Canada, and today's topic is the past, present, and future trend of racism in North America society. And we look at subtopic. We said we look at the definition of racism. We look at the form of racism, the historical nature of racism, and the transatlantic free slaves. We did enslavement of Africans, and we just did the colonization of Africans. Doc, having seen the enslavement and looking at the colonization, the process, and knowing that there were four European countries that uh, uh, divided Africa as though to say that was their property, and there was an inheritance. So they all sat after the death of the parents of Africa, and they were reading the will, and this one will be portion for this person. Can we look at the resistance movement?
Oh wow, that's very interesting because I love this Bob Marley music that says you can fool some of the people some of the time, most of the time, but not all of the times.
Yeah,
You know that music, right?
yeah.
Because it comes to a point where you treat people in a very dehumanizing way that they become annoyed, angry, upset, right? And they express that through resistance. And that's why we started to have a lot of resistant movements after the slave trade and the continuation of the discriminatory behavior towards blacks. So with colonization, one of the first countries in Africa that gained their independence, but Liberia and Ethiopia were never colonized. So let's
Yeah,
get that record
yeah.
straight. One of the first country that fought for her independence or freedom from the colonial masters that we talked about was Ghana, the Gold Coast. Ghana fought Britain out of Ghana. And one of the heroines that fought that was a woman by the name of Ya Asantua.
Come again, come again. You
Ya
say what?
Ya Ya Asantua,
A
a
woman.
Ghanaian woman by
Oh
the
my
name of
God.
Ya Asantua. She from the Ashanti region, Kumasi. She fought the British out of the Ashanti region. She was one of those who helped to fight Britain out of Ghana for Ghana to gain her independence, right? So Ghana gained her independence. After Ghana gained her independence on March 6, 1957, other African countries followed suit. We're regaining a lot of African countries gained their independence in the 60s and drove out the colonial masters, including Kenya, as we hear the famous Mau Mau
Mau Mau.
Society,
Yeah,
the
sister.
Mau Mau Society in Kenya. So that the issue in Ghana inspired a lot of people to gain their independence, and the economy of Ghana became good because the Ghanaian people could now you know, have their own say in their own natural resources with Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. So other resistance movement that came in after the independence of Ghana, we know in North America, yeah, we had the civil rights movement with Martin Luther King. Dr. Martin Luther King came in there. We had people like Malcolm X, we had Marcus Garvey, we had the William Du Bois, and the grave of William Du Bois is actually in Ghana by the school in the compound with the School of Journalism.
The
I
real
saw
great.
it. The actual
Wow.
grave of William Du Bois is in Ghana. He was buried in Ghana. He preferred to be buried down in Africa. He led the Pan Africanist movement And today we have other, groups that are standing up, like Black Lives Matter, right? I know the university out there in California is very involved with with critical race studies and critical race theories. But I want to touch on one other group of people that, I mean, being a Canadian, I need to recognize is the First Nations or indigenous people of Canada, of North America. And
Yeah.
you also have them there in the United States. They were also colonized. And today, as we speak, their lives have not really improved. This is the vast historical generational impact that these dehumanizing treatments can have on people. That I think Europeans, colonizers, and descendants of European colonization, the children today need to recognize and realize that your forefathers did something that was very bad to people. And
Yeah.
that's what I say to the Congo people in Liberia. Stop trying to justify what your parents did or your
Yeah.
descendants did when they returned as slaves, because two wrongs can never make
Make a
a
right.
right, right? So the indigenous people of North America were colonized. They had something they call the Sixth Code, where indigenous people were taken away from their home, the children, and sent out to other countries. But they also had a residential school, like the boarding mission schools we have in Liberia,
Yeah.
kind of like Academy Ricks
Point
Institute and
mission.
whatnot.
Yeah.
They built these places and they brought in indigenous children. They said the goal was to civilize them. You talk about the cultural and social negative belief that they have about people they colonize. Oh, you are not civilized. We are here to civilize you. Help me. And they treat them in a very dehumanizing way. And the psychological impact goes on and on. You can say it happened 100 years ago. When I teach and in a diversity course and students go there, but this thing happened, miss, 100 years ago. I almost want to kick that student out of my class. But I say, I'm not going to do that. You will sit in here and I will speak so deeply about this that you will go home and think twice about these sort of treatment. So, of course, some people did not only die, some people stood up against
Against
these
it.
sort of
Yeah.
treatments
Yeah.
and had a resistance movement.
Yeah.
So, another resistance movement that came in the form of education or developed into a theory is what we call the critical race theory. Do you have a question before we go into the critical race theory?
When you were talking about the inequality, marginalization, and something, how can we look at the social theory as it relates to women, Duncan and Karl Marx? When Karl
Okay, go
Marx
to my room.
did the communist, when he wrote the Communist Manifest, how can we place social theory in this context? Guys, please share the live. Professor is trying to switch from one phone to another. You know this thing is sometimes you on one on app or and device, and then cutting up. So hold on. But please share the live. Please, please, please. We want you to share the live. Like I told you guys, on Monday, it's not on the battlefront for politics. It's meaning about sharing knowledge and that will broaden our scope about events that affected us in the past, what is affecting us now as human, and looking at the future. So today we are looking at the past, present, future tense of racism in North American society, because it did not just start here and ended here in Europe. It went cross Africa, and Africans are suffering the blunt of these things. So we are discussing it from that perspective. So please, 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 please bear with me and listen. That's why I say you guys sometimes need to take advantage of these things, because if you were to go to a university, you will have to pay lots and lots and lots of money for this, but you are getting it free from the horse's mouth. Professor Reeves is not just a mother, she's not just a wife, she's just not a friend, she is a teacher. She's teaching at the universities or universities in Canada. So I want you to take advantage of this free of charge. You know, everything that is free, most time Liberians, we don't value it, we don't appreciate it. But this is free and it's something that, like, take for example, we're looking at slavery, okay? Looking at, like today, I have just gotten again, you know, the knowledge that there were four European countries that divided Africa, as though to say that were the mind, you see? And when they did that, what did they really do for Africans? Did they unite us as African? Or did they divide us? Okay. And then I heard just now about the lady from the Ashanti, or region that fought the British out of that region. And that gives me more zeal to work harder as Killer Bean. Yeah. So, Doc, I would like to say thank you. My question just before you try to shift, was to bring in the social theory about Wilma Duncan and Karl Marx, especially when Karl Marx wrote about the Communist Manifest about the bourgeoisie. So, can you help us relate it in this context as it relates to marginalization, abuse of power, inequality?
Oh, that you see, you people are the ones who to make people ashamed. If I didn't learn enough, you would put me on the spot this morning. I'm telling you, but it's good, right? Karl Marx, he did a lot of wonderful things. I know I had the dean of the faculty of social work once, Dr. Robert Mulally, who was a fan of Karl Marx. Man, he did a lot of when it comes to the issue around equality and whatnot, but also economics. He looked a lot into that. But with respect to the bourgeoisies, who are the bourgeoisies? These are the plantation owners. These are the big people we have in society now, the big boys club. And those big boys club, I say this to people, especially when I'm teaching. Sometimes some Caucasian students that we call white, socially constructed words or concepts, they think that, oh, Nancy, you're going too much on the whites. I said, no, I'm not going on the whites. I'm telling you what the white people have done. And until the white man realizes what he has done and what he's continuing to do based on you people as the generation, you realize it and bring a stop to some of these behavior, the world will be a better place because you will continue to have a resistance.
Yeah.
Look at what happened when George Floyd was killed. COVID-19 was no problem. People were in the streets. Is this what you want to continue? Right. So the bourgeoisies are the top big time business people in power and authority, like the head in Walmart and the Sam's Club and Safeway, and these are the big people in society. People like black people and things are seen as peasants. We are nothing to them. But this is what capitalism creates. This is what capitalism creates. And these are the things that Karl Marx and talked about with respect to social inequality. Capitalism creates social inequalities because it does not take into consideration that we have scarce resources in society. But if you give a 10 loaves of bread to 200 persons, everyone may have a very little piece of it, or a lot of people will have big sizes and some people will have nothing. That's what capitalism creates, inequality. And people like Karl Marx says, if these things are created in society, how do we help to better society? By sharing the other resources we have with those who won't have. And this is what in social work, we talked about the distribution of the scarcity of resources we have, the safety net that we create. And we can go on and on and on there, but that's the problem that we have in society. And did the enslavement of Africans create a lot of poverty for Africans? Someone would say, well, how do you blame the white man for that? But when the Congo was the colonial power was being pulled out of Congo, they even went to the situation of even derailing that which they built.
Hmm.
Today, the Democratic Republic of Congo is still in war because you got European nations that are so invested and interested in the natural resource that we put in these cell phones. I've just forgotten the scientific name.
Mm-hmm.
The war in Liberia and Sierra Leone was prolonged because of diamond, blood diamond. Are we wearing diamond rings in Liberia and Sierra Leone?
No, it's Europe.
No,
Yeah,
it's Europe. For
yeah.
European countries, European businesses, bourgeoisies invested in the natural resource of Liberia called diamond and Sierra Leone and exploited these countries with warlords like Fortis Sango, Charles Taylor, and exploited not only the resources of the resource of diamond, but the lives of people.
People. Yeah. Doc, in this context, we talk about when you started talking about the Africans within Africa. I want to understand because sometimes I get so confused, and I think you're the best person to ask. Let's look at South Africa. South Africa. The word is South Africa, but we find the white dominating Africa. Why did that come about? Where did the whites come from to be so predominant in South Africa to the extent that blacks had to fight the apartheid scheme on? Can you tell us that? I mean, from the social perspective, help me there, please. I'm kind of
But
confused.
but that we said it when the partition of Africa, the dance, the dance went all over there, right? South Africa was not excluded from the slave trade and the partitioning of Africa, right? So the apartheid remained there in South Africa where the whites thought they could take over South Africa and be the ones take over the land for big farms. Remember now, we said prejudice plus power equals racism.
Racism.
And the power comes through sometimes forcefully with weapons, but it can also come with money, right? So
Yeah,
if the whites settled in South Africa and had the money to invest in the land, build
yeah,
farms, and all of these big mechanisms and whatnot they put in place, what did the blacks have? First of all, Nelson Mandela, who stood up against apartheid, was put in jail for 27 years. 27 years. That alone, the sort of dehumanizing treatment you see being meted out to someone, are you going to stand in the way? Some people would not, because people were being rounded up and jailed. If you look at Nelson Mandela, been there for 27 years, and no one have said anything, most people would be afraid to put themselves in that situation. So this is some ways that the Afrikaners, they call them, in South Africa, took hold of this country until there were a lot of resistance, of course, with the townships and all of these people that came in. I say when they decided to give way, Nelson Mandela was free, and they did this sort of chauvinistic thing by making him president of South Africa. Today, I traveled from Canada through Europe down to South Africa and on a South African Airlines, and we got to the airport. And I said it. I said, this country is not going to survive without the white man. Because you see, when they take over there, they do it in a way that the people are so dehumanized and ill-treated. Look, when a white man wants to bring you to the ground, they would do it. They would do it. A lot of them don't believe in God. So that's why at the end of slavery, when they said the slavery was ending because of moral judgment, it was a lie. It was because the enslavement of Africans was not meeting much money.
Mm-hmm.
So they so dehumanized the person to break them down. Come
Whoa.
and see indigenous people here in Canada. I mean, I'm in Canada and I'm talking this morning. Come and see the lives of indigenous people here in Canada. They are 26 years, according to research, beneath Canadians. This land was founded by indigenous people of Canada. Those people you see that look almost Indian or First Nations people. But today they are nowhere because of the practice of colonialism, extermination. And that's the same thing that happened to Africa. When you rip off the strong natural resource of a country, you dehumanize them in a way that picking up is not that easy. And the power has still not yet gone. It is still there. And have taken a different shape of form in terms of immigration. And the other word they refer to as brain drain. I mean, we can go on and on and on with this. But until the white man realizes that you are causing more harm than good, it will be a problem.
Wow. So, Doc, I think I remember the same incident that happened. I think it was in Namibia or Zimbabwe, where the whites had more control of the land and the blacks were demanding they wanted the land. I think it was in Namibia, right? Yeah, I think it was
It
in
was in Zimbabwe. It
Zimbabwe.
was in Zimbabwe with
Zimbabwe.
Robert Mugabe,
That's
the
what I
late
thought.
Robert Mugabe.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, Zimbabwe, Mozambique, they all have
Mm,
these
mm,
problems. Angola,
mm.
Angola, I don't know if the war is even over
Yeah.
with the Portuguese is so dominant. And I'll tell you, one of the most racist people I've seen,
Yeah.
I've come across are Portuguese.
Oh.
They're Portuguese. They're very racist. And not all of them, I don't want to generalize,
Yeah.
but most of them I've come across have no respect for Africans or blacks. Right. So I said to one time, I can imagine what you all did in Angola.
Yeah.
One of the main languages that is spoken in Angola is Portuguese.
Yeah.
That's how domineering colonialism is. Look at Ivory Coast, it's French, right? And so forth. Right? Look at Ghana, it's English,
Yeah.
right? That's what it is there. So it's about power and control plus the prejudice. Yeah.
So, Doc, let me ask a question. Let's take it back to Liberia. Let's look at it. Is racism being practiced in another form in our country from the founding since 1847 when the free slaves went there on the Mayflower? Can you tell us or throw the light as to whether it's being practiced or being practiced in another form?
You know, whenever I say this, some people get a little upset with me. But have you heard of bleaching cream?
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
Those
Why
cream
do
that
people
turn us white. I don't like it.
why do people bleach?
They want to be white.
Exactly. And what sort of what sort of perception do people have about people with lighter skin color compared to people with darker skin color?
They are more attractive and people get to like them better.
Exactly. So it's black. Is that person who bleached the skin to look lighter a white person?
No,
Is the person who did not bleach the skin a white person?
no.
Racism, it's that's what it does. So people want to look lighter and have people have that perception that they are beautiful. I will send them to watch the video with Martin Luther King on Black is Beautiful.
Black is
Black is
beautiful.
beautiful.
I'm black and
That
proud.
but
Say
black
it
and
loud.
proud. That
Hey,
internalization
yeah.
of the white color skin has been dominating that biologically brilliant and all of that, some blacks have so internalized it that when they see the black dark looking skin, they think it's not worthwhile. But do you know that do you know now that a lot of how you call this, a lot of of
Women?
of 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 modeling agencies are now um, um, are now taking Sudanese models. Do you
Yeah,
see those Sudanese
I saw
models?
this tall girl with the low haircut, and she there. Man, that girl know how to step. And I'm very sorry.
Exactly.
And her color is black, not even black, but it's black, black.
Right. Yeah. Sudanese, Angolans,
Yeah,
right? Even some Togolese
yeah.
and things, Liberians. Some of us, even the businesses, enterprises are making money out of the color of our skin. But because we have so internalized the treatment that was meted upon us, it's becoming really tough to get it up. That's what I say. People should not start this. Don't treat someone bad and say, oh, I will try to fix it up. You think before you even do it because it can have a vast, long lasting impact on them.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so it also goes to the relationship, Doc. I have seen that most of the men, rather than, they prefer having women of lighter colors. If you were to put a dark skinned woman like me, and or you, and you bring a lighter skinned woman, they prefer having the lighter skinned woman because they feel she's more attractive. What can you say to our men? Because I mean we are learning, we in the learning process, and sharing, or what we say, dissemination of information. What can you say to guys that prefer lighter skin, or say the lighter skin women are better off than the black or skin women?
Well, you know what? All I would say to them is, first of all, I will ask them why they think so. What are the qualities that they put in place to think so, right? Because I'm a dark skinned woman. I'm going to remain like this. I mean, but there's some wonderful qualities that I have that I love and I'm never going to change.
Yeah.
But I think dark skinned women remain in your confidence, do the things that are right and well, right? If and try to educate that man who thinks that a lighter skinned woman is better than a darker skinned woman. He may be very naive about what he's looking for. He could be very selfish and think that he feels much better in bed with a lighter skinned woman. It's up to him. But don't make it your problem to internalize it in a way that you will feel bad about yourself and go running to some Makala or Waterside market and buy some bleaching cream to rub on your skin. Because you know what? I was in Ghana and I saw a lot of women being buried with skin cancer, right? Skin cancer. A
Yeah,
lot of them
it
died
has
from skin
effect. Yeah,
cancer
it has a
because
long-term effect. Pigment,
you pigment, you wash off the pigment of your
the
skin,
pigment of
and you
this.
know what you do? You expose it to the sun. You expose it to the sun, to the rays of the sun, and it causes skin cancer. But if
Cancer.
people are doing this because the lighter skin color is so respected and admired than the darker skin, then I say, where did they learn it from?
The men are into it. I'm telling the competition is on. Some of the men you want to tell, look at the knuckles. You see it. I mean, they're bleaching more than the women. God, man.
Yeah, but if women can also be educated to know that if you're doing this to satisfy men or attract more men to you, and it's eventually going to kill you,
Affect you. Yes.
then they need to be educated about it and stop it.
So, Doc, can we
Right?
have a topic on that? Because that's something that I have seen over time. I have lots and lots of friends back home and all over the world that have been into it. And, Doc, I tell you something. When you see the pigment of the skin, I mean, it's so bad. It's like when you cook or pig foot, or when you cook cow meat, the cow foot. Okay, let me just limit it, narrow it down, and give the people a clear narrative, descriptive about what I'm talking about. Grab a cow foot, put it in the pressure cooker, cook it. And after it's done, it's soft, put it back and cook it again for 2, 3 times. Mama, it's munchy. It's munchy. And it's like, like elastic. That's how I have seen some of my friends body looking like. It's so nasty, you won't even believe it. So the question here is, why go to that length to destroy your life? Like what you said, cancer. All right. And they can't even dress anymore like while you will dress and show the body or show your legs or your top because it's damaged right now. So can we develop a topic, and discuss that, to appreciate the color of our skin that God gave us? Can we find the time to do that? I mean, sorry for
Well, you know
digressing a
what,
bit.
Deb?
Yeah.
I think all of these are educational tools for people to learn. A show like what you're talking about, people need to learn because I've seen people die from skin cancer, especially in Ghana, where I was a refugee for 10 years, and they regret it. But it's too late. It's too late. The doctor cannot save you. The cancer has gone all through the body, but it's only because they wanted to bleach to
Please.
look lighter.
That's right.
And it's all from the white supremacy.
Yeah.
It's all from white supremacy. That we are lighter in color, we are supreme, we have power, we have authority. That's where it comes from. So people need to know that the white man came in, they colonized you, they took away a lot of the resources, but they are no better than you. There's something they like in the black people. That's why they can't leave Africa, and we need to cherish it.
Exactly.
We need
Yeah.
to cherish it. You know, the guy that's saying that you go black, you never go back,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I've seen white men married to black women, and they love them. It's like the black diamond. So
Yeah.
it's up to us, the black women or black men who bleach, to realize our importance and what we bring to the table, right? If even you bring your blackness and you're able to take bath and rub nice cream and make it look good, great. Then do it. Don't have to bleach and turn yourself into something totally different from who your original race is. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Doc. Fellow listeners, once again, this is our usual every Monday live where we step away from the political scene and discuss sharing knowledge, things affecting us in the past, present, and looking at the future. We look at the short-term, long-term plans. We look at issues. We go into it and we discuss it. And on the platform that the person in charge of this every Monday show is none other than our dynamic, energetic, my mentor. I call her my mentor, Professor Reeves, Nancy Reeves from Canada. Professor, I would like to say thank you for sharing knowledge and for taking off from your busy schedule because we know that it's not easy. There's a lot of cost and time factor, attached to what you're doing. Like earlier on before we came, we know you have your family to take care of. I could hear my grandbaby also in the background. I know she wants to climb on your lap, and you still finding time to share and impart knowledge to us. I would like to say thank you. Words are inadequate to express our appreciation to you. Okay, guys, we let me recap. We look at what is racism, forms of racism, historical nature of racism, transatlantic free slaves. We look at the enslavement of Africans, the colonization of Africans, the resistance movements. Doc, can we look at the philosophical thought of racism as described by Cecilia Foster?
Well, there's one resistance movement that I didn't go much into, and I think it's very important for people
Okay.
to know because this show I see it more as an educational tool,
Yeah.
right? As a lot of people know, yeah, I am a professor, and I teach
Guys, please share the live. Professor is experiencing, the network problem not easy. I'm just appealing to you guys to share it. Like there are a lot of things that I'm picking up from here, and I know if you continue to watch, you are going to share and you are going to benefit. And someone out there will pick up one or two things that will benefit their lives. So can you please share, 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 share? Like what Doc was saying, that racism did not even stop. It did not stop out here in Europe, the West. It was also taking to, Africa. And I learned that um, there was a female gladiator from the Ashanti, region in Ghana that was able to fight off the British. So women have been fighting, and in most time, women are overshadowed by the domineering aspect of the male. A lot of women have been in key positions, but they have not been discussed and it have not been brought forth. So to hear this, that's something that I'm so happy about, and that's going to help me to forge ahead to be more vigilant in my approach as I strive for justice, as I preach and you know fight for equality in the country as what is happening. It's not because I want to come on Facebook. If I want to come on Facebook, you will see me every now and then as my colleagues. They are out there making video dancing, wearing these attractive clothes, and then it means that I want you to see me as this beautiful middle-aged woman. That is not the case. Most time you see me, I'm up on the battlefront advocating for the voiceless, for the underprivileged. It takes a lot because most time I have just come from work, and it's not an easy thing coming home 5 o'clock in the morning after I have left my house previously, or maybe by 4, and coming back another, or 5 a.m. in the morning, standing on your feet 10, 12, 11 hours. That's a lot. Nevertheless, I'm always out there, trying to make sure that you guys are receiving, or my thoughts, my feelings through my action. And sometimes my wording might not be favorable to some, and I would like to say sorry, but sometimes the circumstances dictates the situation. I'm just trying to hold up until that comes back because, like she said, she has been experiencing network problem and her battery had gone low. So we were at the end of the live anyway, and I was just trying to, bring in the last topic. So if she don't come back, I can, ending up with one or two words. So as I was saying, whatever you have on mind, uh, just bring it out. Like when I'm on, you can also call me by way of my phone 832-946-6885. That's the WhatsApp number. You can call me on the phone if you are in the US. You can call me on that number or call by way of WhatsApp, or you can call on Messenger, whatever it is. We will take your question, or you can just text it, and I will read it out to Doc as it is, or as it was on Saturday night. Saturday night, Doc is coming on Saturday night, and every Saturday we will try our possible best to talk about sex and relationship. The reason why we chose to start with sex is because that's
Deb,
what.
you can hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you, Mama.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, the internet went off there.
Okay.
I'm not seeing myself here.
Yes, I'm not seeing you. Exactly. So I'm seeing you.
You know
Welcome
what?
back,
You
Doc.
know what? I think the devil is busy this morning,
Yes,
but he won't get a place because today this is the devil in North America
I know,
and
right?
other parts of the world that is killing people. There are lots of people who will be listening to this
I
video
guess you go, yo.
and will be saying, you are speaking my story. You are speaking my life experience. because racism and race relations is a serious issue in North America and European society. When you remember that there were some bombings that went on in Britain, in Belgium, especially in Belgium, that went on, and they interviewed some Africans from North America, from North Africa, and they said we were born in Belgium, and they live in the ghetto of Belgium. Why? Because of the color of the skin. That's their lives. And when people, these are some of the resistance that we see. When people become so angry, they do things that harms other people, like terrorism.
Yeah.
Like terrorism. A lot of these terrorists that they've caught and sat to talk with, a lot are minorities. Of course, you got, in-group terrorists and things in the United States and elsewhere. But a lot of people do these things out of anger, out of frustration, having been treated in a way that prevents them from bettering themselves in life. You say, why did I go to school if I would end up being like this?
Yeah.
Now, I'm not supporting radical behavior in no way, shape, or form. But I'm also saying
The root causes, yeah.
the causes of radicalization, the process of radicalization, not only that I grew up in a terrorist country, though, but what country, like, well, maybe Pakistan, even in America and Canada, have terrorists who are born there. But that process, if it has to do with racism, then it needs to be addressed. Then it needs to be addressed. And not just focusing on the action, but what led to the action needs to be addressed. Yeah, sorry we went off there.
Yeah. And I was just the question that I asked were looking at the philosophical thoughts of racism as described by Cecilia Foster. And
Yeah, Caesar Foster talks a lot about that. But as I said before we went off, I want to go over critical race theory. In an effort to actually acknowledge and combat the level of racism that was going on in the 70s, critical race theory came to being in the United States, right? But they also felt that the civil rights movement and was stalling, because Martin Luther King was killed in 1968. And that was a way of saying shut up and stop talking about racism and segregation and civil rights and all these other things. So, that's why we say you can do it to some of the people, but
some
not
of the time.
all of the time.
Yeah.
So critical race theory came up to combat this sort of subtle form of racism that was going on. And wonderful people like Antonio Gramsci, Jack Derrida, Douglas, Frederick Douglass, like William Du Bois, that I said was buried in Accra, Ghana,
Yeah.
and of course Martin Luther King, but he was dead by then. But they pay homage to Martin Luther King for the fight towards Black liberation. The goal here of critical race theory is to assist people of color present their stories. Like today, what I'm doing, what you and myself are doing, we are presenting the stories of Blackness, of Africans. That's what critical race theory seeks to achieve. How do we help people tell the story? You don't have to tell Deborah's story. I don't have to tell Deborah's story, but you can tell Deborah's story. I don't have to tell it. The white man doesn't have to tell our story. We can tell our own stories.
Yeah.
Right. And in a qualitative research, the storytelling is one of the research approaches that is used by many indigenous researchers. But critical race theory argues for the eradication of race as a social construct. Where did we come from with black, with white, with yellow, with brown? Those are the races, the colors,
Yeah.
white, black, yellow, brown, the brown, the Indian people, the yellow, the Chinese people, the white, the Caucasian people, people of European descent, and the black, like you and I.
Yeah.
Critical race theory, The goal here is to argue for that the eradication of this sort of social construction of race. They also disprove the theory, and a lot of you sociologists talked about that, social Darwinism, that based on our biological makeup, that's how much of intellectual, IQ we have, right? So, oh, blacks, they are blacks. So biologically, they don't have much knowledge, right? So can they really do what you want them to do? They are blacks. They're not knowledgeable. So critical race theory tries to play down that and focus more on how racism is deeply embedded in our society based on the treatment and the values that we place on people, like the colonization of the African people. It's disrespect, it's devaluing people, right? Very important. And it's also concerned with how people can be empowered to transcend themselves from one place to another and establish their goals. And that mainly is to give them that respect, to recognize them, to argue for this sort of racism that exists and belittles people, but also disapprove, as I said, of social Darwinist thought, right? They are significant factors in our day-to-day lives. We cannot deny that. Critical race theory talks about that. If you think you are not impacted by racism because, I have all of my friends are whites, excuse me,
Yeah.
then you need to ask yourself why you decided to make all of your friends white.
Why? Yeah. The choice and preferences.
Yeah, you need to ask yourself some of those questions, right? Critical race theory also wants to get rid of the ordering process that has been created in society. And we can move into the whole discourse analysis of why racism exists in the first place. So many modern days readers believe that racism is declining. Critical race theory said, "You lying. It's not declining." Yesterday we had George Floyd situation. How
Yeah.
dare you say racism is declining?
Yeah.
We may not have lynching of
Yeah.
people, but it doesn't mean racism is declining.
Yeah.
It's even on the rise. It's
Yeah.
just that it has taken a different
trend. Yeah.
and form, right? Look at the population of prisoners. Who are they mostly? Blacks.
Blacks. Yeah. Blacks are being stopped every day on the street and arrested.
Yeah. Look at the whole police brutality,
Mm-hmm.
Racial profiling. Look at
Exactly.
poverty. There's a group in Canada here called I just forgotten the name, it slipped off my mind, but they do a lot of research on poverty. And they came up with the findings that the face of poverty is brown.